This is the Check for Trapped podcast, directing the Sylvester Stallone completionist to the 1970s horrific masterpiece The Party at Kitty and Studs. Okay, so as a repeat of what we were just saying, Rocky 4 2 or Creed 2.
Rocky 8.
Rocky 8.
Or 7.
I can't believe that this is still going on.
I'm so happy it's still going on, might I just say.
I'd love to pretend that I wasn't over the moon about it, but I am over the moon about it.
I had such a great time.
Yeah, it's such a basic formula, and for some reason manages to feel fresh and different to all other sequel fodder, and I don't know if that's because I have a bias to the series, but I don't feel like I do.
I was worried about that. About halfway through, I got really... It was when... It was on like Rocky's like second little ramble, but I was like, I don't...
Or the endearing Rocky rambles
I
that
don't...
have become a mainstay of every single film.
Yeah, a mainstay of every film post brain damage. I realized I don't think I can give this an unbiased review just because I'm like, I imagine as you are, like very invested in Rocky.
Yeah.
I was just watching him talk and I was like, I really love this character.
They really must be doing something right, though, because, I mean, this isn't just a Rocky movie anymore. He's not in, every scene of this, and I was still really compelled by everyone around him for all of the same reasons. Like, they're just people who I want to succeed, and when they're failing, I still sympathise with them. Like, I guess the driving force behind this one was that it was Creed's pride, and not his need to, like, just swallow his pride, but to negotiate with his pride, and I thought that was an interesting way for it to go, and that he needed to not alienate the people around him.
And a reason. I think the large portion of it was he needed Rocky largely implies that the reason he lost the first fight so resoundingly was because he didn't have a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Didn't have a reason to be up there, and he had to find one. And he had to find one that wasn't just his dad, and sort of like the perceived Creed legacy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty good. It did clash a bit with the film being called Creed, but I guess you got to keep it consistent with for marketing purposes.
Yeah, they can't change the title again. That was a pretty big risk the first time.
Agreed.
Yeah, to sort of roll into it, to sum up the plot, it's just Creed has now become the heavyweight champion of the world.
He comes at the very beginning. I didn't expect that. I thought we would just that would be implied, but no, we get to see that.
No, yeah, and
him fighting a washed up like heavyweight champion called Jamie Wheeler, I think.
It's the guy who he knocks out like unofficially in the first film.
Yeah.
Just in the he beats him, but then something's a-stirring in Philadelphia, and as he's preparing to propose to his girlfriend, who shows up but Ivan Drago and his fucking stacked machine of a son
Victor.
to publicly challenge him on TV, presumably arranged by like the most insensitive people ever.
Well, we see the guy it's arranged by.
Yeah.
It's arranged by that bastard.
He's literally the devil.
Yeah, he's
he
amazing.
Might as well have horns. So
they set him up really well as well. They kept showing him, but they never explained who he was. But you just knew he was up to no good because he kept appearing everywhere that the main characters were.
It's just a scummy fight promoter. Yeah. And I can't believe that no one stopped this, but he allowed him to bring the man who murdered Creed's father in the ring on TV and get him to issue an open invitation to fight his son in quite a degrading and derogatory way.
It's all about the narrative. That's how he frames it to himself. He's like, I'm creating a narrative. I'm creating sports history.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude, you're literally evil, but no one shoots him.
It's true. Which is weird. I mean, this is maybe you could argue that because Rocky destroyed communism in the war, men like that can now exist in the Rockyverse. Yeah,
because as we all know, I think Rocky 4 came out in 1986, and that was the same year that they just declared that the Cold War was over. I'm pretty sure I learned that in history class.
In the Rockyverse, the Cold War ends with that final punch.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, because he breaks Ivan Drago's jaw, and then the Berlin Wall literally shattered at the same time outwards, as though someone had punched it.
Which is why I think, because at the beginning of this film, Ivan Drago doesn't start in Russia, as you'd expect.
He's in the Ukraine.
He's in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, again, like obviously, given the political context of the fact that like Ukrainians and Russians literally aren't speaking to each other right now, and Ukraine isn't allowing Russian men into Ukraine. I guess this was all done before it all ramped up again recently.
Conceived.
Yeah. And so, exactly. So it just felt a bit disingenuous that they were treating those two countries as kind of the same. Like, it wasn't really... Because I kind of thought to begin with...
It threw me off.
Yeah. I thought to begin with he was in Ukraine because he'd been, like, exiled from Russia in a weird way. But I don't think he had. I think he could still go there.
I kind of decided that on behalf of the film, but... it didn't really explain that. I kind of just wanted to throw it a bone.
And then I thought it might be the Klitschko's. I thought maybe it could be like because like Ukraine's boxing scene is pretty good. I wondered whether but again, not really referenced.
No.
Not explained.
It's almost as though they had no idea, which I don't want to say, but
do you reckon
maybe it's
they
true.
said he can't be in Moscow, he's got to be in like they were like, what's the New Jersey to Moscow's New York? And they were like, oh, I guess it's Ukraine. And they just sort of, maybe they went, oh, it's probably Kiev. Maybe they looked at a map from like 1917
and started throwing darts at it. Yeah, I can go with that.
It's probably a miracle he wasn't from Vladivostok and they didn't just drive there for the 7 days it would take to get from one to the other.
Jesus Christ. I would have enjoyed that deleted scene from this movie. Just
the two of them absolutely stacked.
Yeah, like squeezed into the front seats of a van.
Oh no,
with
it'd
some
be
deer
like
in the back.
one of those really old Soviet cars.
Oh yeah.
It would completely not work.
Soviet engineering is good like me, son.
Oh, you could have like sweeping shots of like, I don't know, like the Cossacks driving across the plain.
I would love it. Fucking belching smoke out the back as they approach America. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that literally like the most minor nitpick. I love that entire opening. I thought them two, every time those two were training together, and I think they probably, again, it's sort of like they were almost applying a different filter when they were shooting in like Ukraine and Russia. It was so grey and miserable.
Yeah, but it's quite unfair when you make like an American film where you turn another nation into an adversary. They will shoot the gringiest dark alleys of it, and it represents the entire state of the nation.
Every boxing match and every street is like a grey industrial complex.
Yep.
And every boxing match happens in like a medieval pulpit.
It was the
It's quite dystopian. Considering in like Rocky IV, the Soviet Union was like this high tech. They were in like that fucking space lab.
Yeah. They had a lab that you would like build a fighting robot in.
It's like the collapse of communism seems to be the worst thing that ever happened to this nation, judging from what you've shown me.
Yeah, what are they trying to say here?
I just think they needed like a codex for man is living rough.
Yeah, things are hard for him now. I mean, they did resort to a few cliches. He had tired old pieces of newspaper, about his fight and his loss to Rocky still pinned up in his flat.
Yep, he definitely hadn't got over it. He had Rocky pinned up, and Rocky did not have him pinned up, which was a nice.
That was a good setup and payoff, actually. Yeah, and in that scene where that scene where Drago actually shows up at Adrian's at Rocky's restaurant. I mean, it was pretty tense, but it was also quite hilarious when he was talking about the mangy dogs of the Ukraine once again.
I saw someone compare that scene where he sits down to Heat. I said it's nothing. I didn't think it was anything like that scene, but it was very tense. I do agree, but I think it was tense in a different way because you didn't know how Rocky was going to react. Like I knew not even Drago probably wasn't going to go in like punching. I had a feeling he'd sort of like tempered it and was acting out for his son.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of worried about how Rocky would react to it.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was enjoying sitting and just watching it. I was worried that something bad might happen to old man Rocky. Drago wasn't going to go in punching, but at the same time, he is furious at this man beyond all reason.
Oh yeah,
and especially when his fucking scary, like when Victor
Drago came I was infinitely more scared when Victor.
Yeah. When he came in the back and when he said that he wasn't interested and he thought he should leave, I actually thought they were going to do like a mob guys, just like start trashing the place, like a Goodfellas thing. But luckily, this is not what happened.
No, they're trying to assault the legacy, and I liked that. I did like they want to diminish what Rocky did, and they want to further rub salt in like the Creed wound. And it works. I think it really works. Like the central conflict of the film never stops giving, and they do it quite cleverly. I guess we've already kind of spoiled half of it anyway, but vague spoilers.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah.
Creed loses the first fight to Victor Drago. Well, he wins, but that's what keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
He wins. He's completely decimated, but Victor is disqualified for a cheap punch when he's down on the floor.
That's right, yeah. The ref had already stepped in, but then he just punches him in the chin again.
And
which
so
adds insult to injury because, I mean, it means that he gets to keep his title, but he knows that he lost, and so does everyone else.
And everyone keeps reminding of it. You keep going to like HBO television where they're like, just in, Creed still sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's the biggest cuck in the game? It's the world champion.
And there's all this thing like, he's got to get back in the ring or you're going to lose your title, and they're like, he won't be able to live with himself, and he's there and he doesn't really want to box anymore, and kind of understandably. Yeah. And he needs to work out a reason to do so. And I guess this is probably maybe where the movie falters slightly, because the dismount into why he's going to fight is slightly... I mean, it's not confused because it's done largely through the baby.
Yeah. The screenwriter shoots a baby into an otherwise interesting female character.
Yeah.
To move the plot along. But I think
it works. It really does work. And it serves the theme well enough that I'm willing to overlook it. The payoff in the last 30 minutes is more than good enough for it.
I would agree with that. I mean, right after the film, me and you, I was saying that maybe the baby stuff, to me, wasn't the most amazing, but by the time, as you say, it got to the third act and the the whole thing became about what you have to do for your family and the importance of making sure that your family are okay with what you're doing.
And yeah,
it exonerated itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the responsibility that parents have to their children, and the sort of like whether the children need to pay back any of that responsibility and any of that sort of duty.
Yeah,
I think works really well, and it worked well from like every character. Like it worked well from Rocky down to Creed. It worked well from Creed up to both Apollo Creed and also back up to Rocky, and then down to his own child, and then from Victor to Ivan. I think there was so many different like interplays between how this worked, and again, like even from Creed up to his mother, I think there was it really tied together nicely, and it was good to give Creed both sides of it, because I think it fleshed him out as a character to have him both feeling what Ivan was to Victor, and also what Victor was to Drago, and it encompassed him into like the entirety, I think, of the struggle.
No, I really agree. Like the person who, so I was really game with all of this, but the one person I didn't expect to have quite that full of an arc in the same way that all of the other characters did was Ivan Drago himself, and we both agreed, and we've already said spoilers, that so we knew he was going to win, but when all of sort of like the Russians and Drago's family started leaving when they realised he was losing, I was like, okay, yeah, so it's because he doesn't have them in his corner. But the beat where Rocky didn't throw in the towel, like 30, 40 years ago, but now Drago is going to throw in the towel for his son, came completely left of field for me. Like, I didn't expect it at all, but it was exactly the right thing to happen, and I really have to applaud just the deftness of the screenwriting.
Whoever came up with that, no, I agree. And like I said, I mean, I think we spoke about this, and I said I realised it as soon as they walked out and he looked at his son, because he had like this like pleading look in his eye, and it was like the first time you've seen him show anything other than sort of like hate, because throughout the entire film, and it's set up really well, he's like drilling into this guy. He never says a nice thing. Like at one point he actively like takes his water away from him rather than giving him the water. And again, I think it's sort of like about, like you said, it's about winning. Like the other theme, I think, is about winning and losing, and it's what the people beside you will do when you win or lose. So like Ivan Drago never had any of that, and so he treats his son with the same mentality. And I'm glad they didn't like layer it on thick, where he's like looking at like the Creed team being really supportive, but he realizes it without them. And I think that works really nicely. And he throws in the towel. It's a perfect parallel to the Apollo Creed Rocky scene from Rocky 4. But not only that, it's just so reaffirming of like the message the whole film's been going for. I actually think it's probably one of the highlights of the Rocky franchise for me. I would completely agree. That moment, and like the moment where he's trying to calm down his son, is like son's still in like punching mode, and he's trying to like hug him, and like I almost felt myself tearing up at that. That was some like really, really good stuff. You wouldn't have expected that the moment that would tie together the whole message of the film thematically to come from the villains, but it did, and it was great. And it felt effortless. It didn't feel forced at all.
Because he'd indoctrinated his son, and he'd made him do all of this stuff so he could get something back personally from the people who left him. But as soon as they left Victor, he suddenly realised that he wasn't going to get that back from them, and the weight of what he'd done just fell down, and he realised all he ever did have, the only person who would stick with him, was his son.
Was the person he indoctrinated.
And he really needed to suddenly look out for that guy, because he was all he had left. And
he was really proud of him. Like he and they're running together, and he does look happy. He's achieved a modicum of peace.
Yeah, they
in a character who never
had repair their relationship, and that was fucking sweet. See, this was so much better than it had any right to be, and this is exactly what I said about the last one. Like, why was it so hard hitting? It's ridiculous. It's like the 8th one. It's a spiritual sequel to the bawdiest Rocky film and schlockiest film maybe ever. Anyway,
I tell you what, it made me rethink the idea of schlock. Which is probably quite a bold statement, because I love schlock in general, but it told such a powerful story from such a schlocky beginning, but it did it without ever really abandoning those schlocky roots, which is fucking great.
All the terrible things that you could say about all sequels, even when they do turn out well. What's amazing about Creed 2 is it couldn't have been this good if it wasn't like the 8th thing in a franchise, which is so weird to say. It feels like blasphemy, but there's just too much to draw on. There's
so many things going on. Like, you got Paulie's grave, you've got Adrian's grave, you've got Apollo's grave. There's so many dead people. He mentions that Mickey's dead. You've got the trainer, Apollo Creed's original trainer, who I think was called like Tyler or Tyson. And you got his son, the guy. So in the first one, Creed gets rejected from. I'm going to call him Tyler, but I don't think he is called Tyler.
Let's do it.
He's called Tyler, so he gets rejected from Tyler's School of Boxing, and he even references this in Creed 2. He says, "You rejected me previously. I wasn't ready. Rocky's abandoned me. I need you now." And so you've even got like that generational interplay between those two people. And you've got that. But the gym that he trains in has this huge memorial to Apollo Creed, and it's not until he leaves that gym and he goes to the desert for the. And again, they even
one.
throw that back. They have Rocky goes out to the bloody Russian ranch.
That's right, and he has to train in a harsh environment in the schlockiest of all the training montages, and also probably the best, the Rocky 4 one. And I love what you said about the mural, by the way, because it seems over the top, but it was perfect to have in the background of all of these scenes, literally the shadow, or rather, the mural of Apollo Creed bearing down on you.
It's so heavy-handed, but it works so well, and it could, like you said, it could only work well in like a film like this.
Yeah, and they did. You're right. They needed to get out from underneath it, so they could move on, and that's exactly what happened.
And he abandoned the training regime of his father. He embraced I don't know where Rocky met those guys, but he embraced the desert gang.
They seemed like pretty hardcore people.
That's never established. Rocky just says, this is where bad boxers go, isn't it?
They all seemed like murderers and criminals.
But he gets along well enough with them. And I like that his hoodie gets gradually more ripped. To begin with, there's like one of the arms is missing, and then both of them are missing, and then there's like a giant gash down the entire
side of it. He's more of a badass now, man.
Yeah, it's like active...
Holy clothes equates to badassery.
It's not one of the most memorable training montages, but it is probably one of the best shot. Like, there's so many just nice moments in it.
We both had...
But there's no cheesy music, so I'll never remember it.
That's true.
It does work. It worked really well.
It's the kind of the scaled back Creed theme version of the Rocky theme, but there was that shot of him running ridiculously quickly that we both got a bit too excited over.
So good. Up until that was what made it extraordinary. I mean, every all of them have like the bit you really remember.
Yeah, when Rocky is running up the snowy mountain and the car crashes trying to chase him. He's not running really quick, but he is running up a snowy mountain,
and they just can't keep track of him. Or like when Apollo and Rocky are celebrating in the water.
That's right. Yeah, Rocky 3.
Got obviously the steps was the big one in the first one. That's a beautiful scene where Ivan and Victor are looking over the steps.
Yep.
And there's like sinister music. They just arrived in Philadelphia. The first thing they do is they go to the steps. How they know? I guess it's just commonly associated that Rocky trained on those steps. Because there are people celebrating.
Yeah,
it must be known.
I think that the explanation would be they went to see the statue, so they could like pay disrespect to it, and then also saw the people running doing of the Rocky steps.
So then they like looked over and saw the same view Rocky would have seen. It worked really well. Obviously because.
People actually enjoy things as well.
Yeah, you can imagine. I would. Fuck it. I realised. I was like, I want to go there.
Yeah. I want to watch the Rocky steps.
Yeah, I'd never wanted to do that until a film. And again, I think that's what, like you said, couldn't happen without 8 films. Like the lore of the Rocky universe is like the things that we take as iconic are taken as iconic by the characters in the universe.
Yeah.
And so it gives you a much greater sense of attachment to it. Like people know what Rocky and Apollo did. There's like you go to the restaurant, they've got all the pictures. You go into like the HBO guys are talking about it, and like they're showing footage. They're showing really clear HD footage, clearly from like the Rocky remasters.
Yeah.
But like pretending that they're like archive footage from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, we were which is
hilarious because like Michael B. Jordan's watching on an iPad the death of his father, but it's fucking crystal clear and it's shot from very cinematic angles.
Yeah. Like the camera's like panning over. It's not like a pay-per-view fight. Like
But I guess it would be too hard to even try and doctor that footage to make it look.
It's weird because we were like, for want of a better phrase, like gasming over the dumbest stuff in this movie, like him running really quickly and him having a boxing fight with a man while they both had like their front foot in a tire. But it is a testament to how like they pull you in and involve you with the characters that you can get so pumped for such stupid dude bro shit. Good for them. Like I wouldn't be able to do it.
I meant to tell you actually, I played a version of that game before where you're in like the push-up position.
Yeah.
And you're both like you're in a box, but both of your hands have to stay in the push-up position. You've got to like knock each other's hands over.
Okay.
And it's sort of like an endurance test to see how like well you can angle from while staying in the same like quite close position.
Okay.
And it's quite good fun, and I like that that's apparently I don't know if that's an actual technique that boxers use, but I can imagine it's very useful, and it made me very happy to see it.
Reminded me of that bit in the video for Beat It where they like wrap the sheet around both their arms and then they both have to have a knife fight, which is obviously the sickest thing to ever happen in a Michael Jackson video. So I was like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, like you said, just shouldn't worked as well as it should have. Given that the first one of these, what is it? Looks like a 40-year-old franchise now. It must be approaching.
Yeah. It's dumb because the thing is there's other franchises that I want to be better, such as the Star Wars franchise, that they can't seem to help but like really balls up.
Harry Potter franchise.
Yeah, like they should be embarrassed that this is the one that's leading the pack as far as just not being really tedious, because literally the same thing happens in every single one of these movies, and I would still recommend almost all of them. In fact, I'd recommend all of them except for 5.
Yep.
I can't say that about Star Wars movies, and Star Wars is treated like some kind of fucking religion. this is just a movie about a moron who probably has brain damage, who gets in fights and then mentors someone else.
Yep, and it's written by someone who, as I said to you, I don't think people really respect as a writer, but probably should, because he's doing something right.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about this on mic because I think that's quite salient. How you were comparing him as a writer very unfavourably to J.K. Rowling, and how she has all of this prestige and she has just released her sequel to a kind of spin-off.
Second in a spin-off franchise that I just watched and thought was god-awful and seems to be getting very poor reviews.
Fantastic Beasts 2 is sort of like the Creed 2 of the Harry Potter franchise, and you did not have enough bad things to say about it.
No, I could rant for hours about that. And again, it's just so lazy on her part. Like, and again, like she's just coasting on her reputation.
Yeah.
I guess maybe in a way that Sylvester Stallone can't afford to do. I guess maybe if he knows if he releases a dud movie, they're going to go in on him.
Yeah, exactly. People will be nasty to him because
they are anyway. They'll be nasty to him anyway.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like what he mostly does. He's only ever one good film away from doing like an Expendables 3. Yeah, he actually has to be on his toes. He has to try.
Yeah, and what an injustice. And I can only hope that this does so much better than Fantastic Beasts. Though it won't, because there's not a like coin-stealing platypus in it. So presumably it won't make half the merchandising money.
There you go.
Soundtrack, by the way, actually, one of my last asides. So good.
I listen back to it as well.
Way better than it has any right to be again.
Yeah.
And just a perfect blend. Actually felt really like gothic at some points. Like it was much more muted compared to the Creed 1 soundtrack. I really liked that.
I would agree with that. I'm going to make one final point, and it was something I said to you. The worst thing I can say about the film just talks about how good it is, because in previous Rocky movies, especially in Rocky 4, like as they moved along, he stopped cutting moments of the fights, he stopped cutting between rounds, he stopped turning them into montages because he had the confidence that you would be invested enough.
And I think the problem is it's not Ryan Coogler or Rocky, Sylvester Stallone directing these, and so I guess perhaps the new guy didn't feel that he had it in him to do the whole fight.
But it's a shame because I really enjoyed the last fight, but I know that I would have enjoyed the decisive moments of it more if they just allowed me to spend more time with it. Like, I cared so much at that point that I could have just watched them wail on each other for ages. You know, watching the tide of it change, even in a really small way, is very engaging. So
they really do like the frenetic energy very well. And again, like, I think by the time you've got to that stage, like, we're all invested. We really care about both of these characters, not just Creed. Like, you know, you've got a...
Victor was interesting.
You've got, despite how little he's characterized, like, he's just in the way he acts and looks and is spoken to and treated by the people around him. Like, there's a really nice scene at the Russian embassy, which really cements that. And from all that, like, you've earned enough you could have done the full fight would have been your victory lap around that, but maybe he didn't think he'd earned it, and that's fine. But like you said, like, if the worst criticism is there wasn't more of it, that's pretty good.
It would have taken, you know, the third act from like A to A+ territory, so it's like not a terrible thing. But in summary, really enjoyed it. It's baffling that it's as good as it is, and shit, I will probably watch another one just on the good faith from this one.
On to Creed 3. Though, I don't know, but let's end it on this. Where do you think Creed 3 goes? What happens now? Do we cut loose from the Rocky lore?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to, and I'm really interested to see where it goes from there. I mean, both me and you have had long discussions about how we're going to kill Rocky in the next one.
Yeah. Is it the death? I know they don't do subtitles, but is it Creed 3, the death of Rocky? I mean, I still like Creed 3, Son of a Gun, but apparently we're not having that.
Son of a Gun. Hey, man. I mean, if we can get involved, then we can have Creed 3, Son of a Gun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think Michael B. Jordan's a weeb, right? He'll listen to us.
He loves that stupid shit, man.
We'll get him to fight Vegeta. That'll be he'll fucking love that.
I would love it. Yeah, well, yeah, because I tell you what. So if we get Creed 3, it enters the Dragon Ball universe. We could have Rocky die. As you know, there's that one human character who's like the strongest human in the world in Dragon Ball, who is always outmatched. Well, Rocky could be like him. He could try and fight like fucking, what's the bastard's name? Frieza, thank you. And Frieza could just like blow him up with Frieza's finger. Then bang, revenge.
Perfect.
Gotta have revenge.
And then they resurrect Apollo Creed, and he's entirely anime now.
And he flies.
He flies, and he's wearing the shorts still.
Shit, man. Michael B. Jordan is going to love this.
You know, he made his Black Panther film look like the Vegeta costume. You can easily sell him on this. But I think, seriously, you kind of have to... You've had your fun now with the Rocky lore. There are no other good Rocky villains to call back on. Clever Lang's was good because he was a one-note flash in the pan, like bestiality.
Absolutely.
Tommy Gunn, despite my joking, is not worth bringing back. Apollo Creed, who was for the first two, is dead and, you know, the focus of this franchise. I think you do have to move on. And like I said, I think the fitting way to end it, I think it would be perfect, would be him moving on past Rocky
Yeah.
Like, but whether that... I mean, I know Sylvester Stallone has said you are this franchise now.
Yeah.
Which I guess...
On screen and off
Yeah,
screen.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really nice. And so, yeah, I guess it's up to him from here on in.
I wouldn't, even though I don't know how it would work without it, I wouldn't accept a movie that was just another him and Rocky movie. So that there is nowhere for it to go except for past Rocky. You're right. So
yeah, I think this is sadly, and again, really quite sad. Like I'm not going to cope well with the death of Rocky. You're going to have to hold me. It's good.
Yeah. As a closing thing, we're so starved for Sylvester Stallone things, we might even have to watch the last Rambo movie.
Cowboy Rambo.
Yep. Rambo's Last Rodeo. All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
See ya.